All right, I think we should be live right now. Hello, everybody. It's been a while since we've been doing one of these live streams, but once again, I'm Kevin from Coinsider. I'm here with Spencer from Crypto EQ, and he is a GameFi, Metaverse, blockchain gaming expert. He spent hours and hours diving into this particular niche, so we have a lot of alpha for you today. So strap in, ask any questions you may have, and we'll definitely try to keep an eye out for it. And also, for anyone watching this stream after it's live, I will try to leave you timestamps below as well, so you can skip around to the different sections. But as a quick overview, we're going to say our hellos. We're going to talk about blockchain gaming studios, who create the games. We're going to talk about 10 plus specific projects to give you the alpha you need to see if you want to dig in and potentially invest in them. We're going to talk about the different ways to make money in the GameFi space and then wrap it all up with some final thoughts. So without further ado, hello, Spencer. For those who haven't met you yet, please give a quick overview and intro.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here, Kevin. We've done a few of these live streams before, and they've always been a lot of fun. Like Coinsider, Crypto EQ helps people navigate this messy, complex industry. It's so fast-paced, and it really takes a team, whether it's Coinsider or Crypto EQ, doing research and helping you learn about crypto. So we founded Crypto EQ years ago. I've been in the industry for 5 years, and I've been following the GameFi space specifically every day for 6 months. It's only in crypto would you be an expert after looking at something for 6 months. But here we are. And so I'm really excited to share what I've learned about the GameFi and Metaverse sectors with the audience today.
Awesome. So this is really great to have you on because I'm not as in-depth in the GameFi space, admittedly. Like I do a lot more DeFi, layer one, scaling solutions, more things on that side, DAOs, rather than GameFi. So it's great to have because I know a lot of our audience loves this space too. There's a lot of gamers and just people interested in like NFTs and so forth. But before we get into all that good stuff, I always like to start off with a quick look at the markets. So let me just switch my screen real quick. Okay. So Spencer, they usually know my views of the markets, but what would you say are your high-level thoughts just looking at the markets in the past week or two?
Yeah, it's been a painful consolidation. I took some chips off the table when we broke below $53,000 Bitcoin. So my stablecoin position is larger than usual. I'm in the process of end-of-year rebalancing. So I encourage folks to lock in profits on positions and consider rebalancing as we open the year. I'm very optimistic for Q1. I think that this cycle is longer than any cycle we've ever seen. And I'm still bullish on not only the GameFi sector, but crypto as a whole as we enter 2022.
Awesome. So to recap, you are still bullish going into 2022. Are you thinking that we'll have like lengthening cycles or just not even anything close to a traditional cycle moving forward?
Yeah, I think, if you look at no matter what model you're looking at this point, I think everyone has to say that the cycle is lengthened. I'm not aware of a model that you could point to that would suggest that, we're still mimicking a previous cycle. So I would say that it certainly looks that this cycle is completely different than both 17 and 13. I previously shared my views with our premium telegram in Crypto EQ that I thought the most likely scenario would be a top either end of December or January. So my most probable scenario, and you always need to be open to different possibilities, is looking like it's not going to shake out, and that this could be a much longer cycle than we've ever seen before. And that's why you look at multiple perspectives at all times and keep an open mind.
I was also wrong. I called for 100K this year, like way back, months back, and that definitely did not play out. Maybe in 2022, hopefully, but I think I would also just be happy with like Dane staying around this level, chopping for a bit, and then grinding back up. That's okay with me too, because that means less painful bear market, which is good for Coincider and Crypto EQ. And by the way, for those of you who haven't heard of Crypto EQ, go check them out using my link in the description. And if you sign up, please use my link as well. They're a great research firm. They have deep dives into all different niches, including blockchain gaming, and also like individual project deep dives that I've used before when researching different projects for my content. So just wanted to give them a shout out for that.
Yeah, a little teaser on some content coming, Kevin. We'll be releasing our Ethereum upgrade, which we're working on with you. The Coinsider channel and the Crypto EQ community will get an early look at that. It is a 70-page institutional grade research report on the Ethereum upgrade. It's the best that we've seen, and we monitor a lot of different research providers. And anyone that subscribes to Crypto EQ will have early access to that Ethereum upgrade report. It's
Dang,
really
70
helpful.
page. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's really helpful because there are so many different things happening in the Ethereum ecosystem to make the upgrade a success. That it really does take something like this to wrap your head around all the moving parts.
It does because before I really dug in deep, and it's definitely not like to the level of what your researchers did, but I was still confused. I was like, oh, Ethereum 2.0 is still happening. It's still going to, like, sharding is going to bring us like 100x scalability improvements. But that was all pretty much wrong. It's like they have a different approach and different roadmap. And anyways, my point is it's going to be exciting to dive into, and I hope to read it a few times, sink my teeth into it, and make some content for you all who are watching about that. So really excited about that.
Likewise.
All
And
right, so let's jump right into blockchain gaming, GameFi, and Metaverse. Then, thank you all for writing of us in the group chats. But let's start off with gaming studios. This is something that I've heard a lot of discussion on crypto Twitter about how, like, if GameFi and blockchain gaming really want to take off, then they need these like amazing AAA gaming studios to either enter or like teams to leave them to build their own blockchain gaming studio. What are your thoughts on that and also gaming studios as a whole?
yeah, the big pattern that I'm seeing is kind of a parallel to crypto. I mean, the whole crypto industry you see sucking up all of this amazing talent. You see people from all walks of life and disciplines and vocations and like moving to crypto, building a home there and staying there. I mean, I was an engineer before, and I'm very excited to make crypto my vocation, my passion, and build companies in this industry. So I'm here for the long haul, right? I've been here 5 years, and I'm not going anywhere. And there's so many people that are following those footsteps, and building a great life, following their passion. And so that's happening in the gaming industry. You've seen great game developers joining the ranks of blockchain game studios. And I think there's three that really are leading the market right now. You have Sky Mavis, which is, of course, responsible for Axie Infinity. You have Animoca Brands, and you have which is responsible for the Sandbox, and you have Gala Games, which is responsible for Townstar. And these three studios have different approaches. Sky Mavis appears to be laser focused on building Axie vertically and making Axie the most dominant and continue to be the most dominant blockchain game in existence by adding all these different elements to its ecosystem. It has a DEX now. It has a bridge dedicated to Axie that is bridged to the Ethereum network. It's got some special things that other ecosystems haven't been able to replicate yet. But then you look at Animoca Brands and Gala Games, and they have a portfolio of games that they're developing parallel. So these are different strategies where Axie is laser focused on one game. Where Sky Mavis is laser focused on one game, and then you have Animoca and Gala building multiple, potentially AAA games together.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And everyone listening, this is the kind of alpha you're going to get from this stream. So definitely ask all the questions you want and share with us your thoughts as well, because I know a lot of y'all are deep into this niche as well. Quick questions from the audience. Let's take a little bit to look at that. One person asks, are there any metaverse or GameFi indices that you would recommend? Like one indices to buy to invest in the whole space?
Yeah, I've changed the way I felt about that personally. Yeah, in general, I like the idea of an index or maybe even a guild in gaming. There's Yield Guild Games, for example. It's a blue chip, I would say, in the gaming guild sector because it gives you broad exposure to the asset class in the sector. MVI is another kind of index I've followed and heard of that pertains to metaverses. But now after looking at this for 6 months, I'm more interested in picking winners and completely avoiding what I think could stagnate or go to zero. And I'll give you like a concrete example of why I exited Yield Guild Games. I did previously have a position in that, and when you look deep into Yield Guild, you know, a majority of their holdings, Yield Guild Games is a DAO. It's a DAO that holds a lot of gaming, GameFi assets, a lot of NFTs. They're mostly Axie NFTs with some other significant positions, but they're mostly an Axie guild today. And when I look at my Axie position, it just seemed like I had too much exposure there. So I actually reinvested that capital in other games that I thought had great asymmetric risk. So my short answer is MBI and YGG are things to look at for broad exposure. But if you have the time or the tools like Coincider and Crypto EQ, then I think it would behoove folks to allocate to things directly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It looks like Yield Guild has expanded to a lot of. Do you know like what this
Yeah,
means?
so by count, they've got broad exposure, but if it's like 1%, 2% here, little five figure checks here, little six-figure checks here, but the millions of dollars that are behind Yield Guild are in Axie for the most part. So
Interesting, interesting.
yeah,
Wow.
so
Okay.
so if you already have a lot of exposure to Axie, which I do, I'm not interested in a guild that's primarily exposed to
Yeah,
Axie.
that makes a ton of sense. That makes a ton of sense. Okay.
That's a personal choice, right? So if you're someone that skipped Axie or doesn't have any interest in it, then perhaps that might be a good fit.
For sure. This is a great one by Dave. A great question. So, we're gonna cover this first before we move to some specific games that I'm really curious about. I haven't heard of like 50% or more of the games that you shared with me before our conversation. So Dave mentions that Ubisoft announced that they wanted to add NFTs, but a lot of the gamers pushed back, and there was like, I think they might have tabled their plans because of that. So he wants to hear your thoughts on just that drama per se.
Yeah, so this is another way in which I've changed my mind about my investment thesis in GameFi. I used to have a lot of exposure to the Engine Coin project, which is a project that was geared towards going to the quote unquote traditional gaming companies and building bridges to them and providing NFT solutions so that they could integrate NFTs into their existing platforms. Ubisoft partnered with Tezos or previously announced a partnership with Tezos to bring NFTs via the Tezos blockchain to Ghost Recon, an existing Ubisoft game. You saw a lot of backlash there, which I look at as confirmation that uh, maybe the play here is not um, bridging to the traditional, but rather building your own blockchain gaming studio. So
Got it.
I personally am less interested in seeing traditional brands pivot and am more interested in following the companies that are sucking up the great AAA game talent within a blockchain gaming company. And so I think one takeaway for the audience would be to look at Animoca Brand's portfolio, look at Gala Games' portfolio, and there's more studios. I just think that those are the best right now. And look at the games they're developing. And what's cool about GameFi is if you're a gamer or you have the time or the interest, you can go test this stuff out firsthand without a whole lot of in-depth technical knowledge. Whereas when we do research on DeFi, that can feel super abstract and esoteric for folks, and it's more complicated to go get some firsthand experience with DeFi, and arguably more risky. Whereas with GameFi, you could just go play the games, and I think one factor is how fun are they, right?
Right,
So and
exactly.
yeah, so you could jump in and play some of these games that, as we get deeper into the stream, I'll focus specifically on what is and is not playable, something you can play today.
Yeah, that's really important to understand. So it's not all just hype based speculation. And I'm just looking at the Animoca brands. These are the games that we can play, right? Oh, they have some like mobile games too.
So I would say the most significant, most mature Animoca game is the Sandbox,
Got it.
which just completed its first alpha, and our team was one of the 5,000 alpha pass holders, and we had the privilege to jump in and experience the full alpha firsthand. And my overall comment there is they did a very good job. They do have things to work on. It is an alpha, but very promising game thus far, and the play to earn component worked flawlessly. The NFT drop worked flawlessly, and we look forward to participating in the next alpha. It'll be Alpha 2. And so that's something that your audience can look for as an opportunity to jump in. There will be an Alpha 2. They announced that at the end of the first alpha.
That makes sense. Okay. Awesome. Let's now, before we take more questions, let's now move to specific projects that we'll take a look at. Okay. So, um, Spencer sent me about like 11 or so before. So let's just hit each one and kind of give you some alpha, share Spencer's experience and knowledge about each one, so that you can decide if you want to take a closer look and potentially play or invest in them. So let's start with Illuvium. Can you give us your general thoughts about that game?
Yeah, so this one is pre-launch, um, so you can't play the game today. You can look at some demos of the game. One of the things that is live is the staking feature, or stake. Um, the APY is looking like about 18% on the stake today. It's pretty dynamic. Um, what is it? It's an open world role playing game, and it is built atop Ethereum. And so you'll see this trend quite a bit as we talk about these games. Most of what's happening in blockchain gaming is built atop Ethereum or is using Ethereum scaling solutions directly. There are some exceptions that I think are notable that we'll talk about, but for the most part, that's a big theme. Like the rest of the ecosystem, a lot of the cool stuff is happening on Ethereum.
For sure. I think their website looks beautiful and their game looks promising. But one thing I noticed from some skeptics or critics is that a lot of these teams just spend a few $1,000s making like amazing, like not even launched, not even playable graphics or animations. And then they just like use that to generate hype and it's pretty unfounded. So
Yeah,
what are
yeah, yeah. How about we'll play good cop, bad cop? So some of this feels like ICO bubble all over again in the terms of there's a lot of great glossy marketing, and some of these games are going to be fantastic. ETH was an ICO, and then some of these things are going to be absolute zeros, um, and like an exit scam. I would not, my gut reaction on Illuvium. I think that it looks very promising. I do not have any exposure today, but I am following it closely. Um, Notable backers of Illuvium, things that would lead you to believe that this is the real deal would be Chainlink and Yield Guild Games. Yield Guild Games has a great team behind it. And one of the things that I think is interesting that differentiates Illuvium is their choice of Ethereum and this slogan of "Fight for ETH," but also that it's a multinational DAO. I have not seen that as much from some of the competitors in the role-playing game, blockchain game sector. The choice of a DAO, leads you to believe that maybe their intentions are more crypto centric, and they're more interested in the peer to peer aspect of this revolution.
That makes sense. One thing that I want to mention here is that some critics say that, like, a lot of these gaming projects pre-launch and whatnot have these ridiculous fully diluted values, and that means that their thesis is that it's going to cap the future potential growth of the project. Like Illuvium has what, 10 billion fully diluted value? That seems way rich for this project.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I don't have any exposure today. Is I'd like to see some milestones before, and I'd like to see some actual gameplay. If not playing the game myself, at least a more fully functioning demo. So it feels too early for me today. Yeah, it feels overvalued.
Okay, awesome. Let's move on. Big Time. What can you tell us about Big Time?
Big Time is a multiplayer action RPG. You could compare it to Illuvium. Um, Again, it's a pre-launch game. It still feels very early. One differentiator with Big Time is they've got an impressive team of industry veterans. So what I didn't see as much in looking at Illuvium was the AAA game talent. At least it wasn't marketed the way it is with Big Time. So with Illuvium, you've got a DAO, which appears to be more aligned with the peer-to-peer kind of ethos of crypto. But with Big Time, you've got some people that have participated in building some great AAA games. Kind of an interesting note. I don't know if this is something that I would consider a plus. It's led by the Decentraland.org founder. I'm personally not a big fan of Mana or Decentraland, but some folks are, and so they may see that as a strong positive. Um, and
This
the last little note here is some of the people that are building this game helped build things at Epic Games, Blizzard, EA, and Riot.
nice. That is good to hear. Two
Yeah.
questions for you. One is, does this have a token or not yet?
So that's another unique thing about Big Time. They're saying that if you want exposure to the play to earn economy, you're going to need to play the game, which I look at as a positive. But that makes it more difficult for some of the monetization strategies that we're going to discuss, on the back half of the call or back half of the stream. Um, so it appears that if you want exposure to the in-game economy, you'll need to earn with your time and effort. Another kind of quick note here, we looked at their alpha passes or their early access passes. They seemed a bit rich for me personally, but that is something that may still be available. I haven't looked at it in about a week, but you may be able to purchase an early access pass for Big Time.
Nice. I
So
see.
that's something the audience can take a look at.
You're right. They have Big Time members from huge games.
Yeah,
So that's promising. By the way, this is a separate question, but does Crypto EQ have a Decentraland report?
we have a blockchain gaming report. We did not touch on Decentraland within that report, but we did touch on some of the other things that we've mentioned today. That's downloadable in public now, and it's in our link tree. So that'd be linktr.ee/cryptoeq, and
Got
it's
it.
called the Blockchain Gaming Core Plus.
Got it. Okay, moving on. Third project. Let's talk about Mirandus. What can you tell us about that?
Mirandus is showing some promising like early access demos. One of things about the culture of Gala Games is they really integrate the community as early as possible. So they want folks to get in, jump in, and play as early as they possibly can. Mirandus has some components that are live, so I would not call it pre-launch. And it's a fantasy, massively multiplayer online RPG, so an MMO RPG. Um, what makes it similar to things like Illuvium and Big Time are that it's an RPG. What makes it a little different is it's built by Gala Games, which has a proven track record of shipping blockchain games. So if you're looking at risk profile of these different things, I would say Gala Games is the strongest pedigree here of the ones we've talked about so far. Um, and the I guess the most playable, most fun game we've seen from Gala Games is Townstar. So if you're considering Mirandus, you may want to go try Townstar and see how you like that,
Got it.
look at the quality. Townstar is kind of like a Farmville style game. Um, and one of the last things I'll say about Mirandus is they've got Vox collectibles. Um, the Townstar ecosystem had Vox collectibles as well. In these NFTs, easily 10x in value relatively quickly. They launched in the summer. Mirandus has its own Vox collectibles. They're calling it Vox Collectibles 2. They just dropped about a week ago. I think the initial kind of raffle before they were minted was like 2 weeks ago. And you could easily 10x as well. These Voxes, these NFTs, are players that you can use in game, basically. So it's kind of like buying a character.
So are they like
Uh,
these exemplars?
Exemplars and Voxes are different, um, but either Townstar or Mirandus, there's this whole marketplace that's developed around these games that's very liquid, and there's secondary markets that support it on OpenSea.
Interesting.
Is building activity and excitement around these NFTs that can be used in game. And these markets are very dynamic, very active. There's a lot of liquidity on OpenSea, for example, and these NFTs are trading, before these games are fully functional. So that's an investment opportunity. That's something that's fun for people as well that want to participate in the game.
How do I search for this, by the way? This Mirandus NFT.
I would just go try Mirandus and see if there's a blue check Mirandus collection. You could also look at Vox if Mirandus doesn't pull anything up.
Fox Collectibles Mirandus. Here we go.
Yeah, so that's the collection I was talking about. And so these, I think they're available for like 0.88
One
ETH.
one
Or
point
something.
seven one ETH.
Yeah, so the floor has already doubled, right? And these things just dropped. So easily could 10x from the.
And people use them to play as well in the game.
Yeah, so I think they'll function a lot like Townstar's Vox collectibles in the sense that when you hold a Vox, you'll be able to do certain things in game. Um, and of course, the Voxes have scarcity. With the original Voxes, there was only 8,888 minted. So you can think of them kind of like uh, crypto art in the scarcity sense, but they actually have utility in game, and so that's why I got really interested in GameFi NFTs was I could wrap my head around the utility as a gamer.
Right.
Whereas with NFTs and art, I never really dove in there because it just seemed incredibly speculative, and art wasn't as much my thing.
So one big question about these NFTs in games is, can you still play if you don't hold one of these?
So that would vary game to game. So like Axie Infinity, for example, if you don't have Axie NFTs, then you're not able to play the game. Now with Mirandus and Townstar, you can play the games without boxes.
Okay.
So that's a cultural difference, and so that's why you'll hear jargon like free to play, play to earn, play and earn, play to win. It's nuance for all these different games, and they're all taking different approaches and strategies, and we'll see what the magic formula is, or if there's multiple ways to skin the cat, right?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think I prefer to not have to buy one to play because that's just so much more friction and hurdles you have to jump through to get started.
Yeah, I think that different folks will gravitate toward different things. Right now, I like this idea of setting a cap on how much capital you want to put into each ecosystem and quickly develop a competitive advantage with a reasonable number of exclusive NFTs, and then generate yield on that. But if you're just doing research, right, you don't want to have to drop a lot of capital to get some firsthand experience. I can certainly see that where that's a lot of friction.
Awesome. Let's move on to Ember Sword. What can you tell us about that one?
Yeah, so this one has been hyped in our own community. So we have some people in the Crypto EQ community Telegram that are really excited about this one. It's like kind of an open world sandbox style MMO RPG. So the theme so far on the live stream is we're talking all about a lot of RPGs. This one is built by a completely different gaming studio. It's called Bright Star Studios, and they've got some AAA talent as well that they've brought in, and it is powered by Ethereum. So a lot of positive things to say about um, reading more on Ember Sword. The storyline is very interesting. I could see this being a good game, but you're not able to play it today. And so, this is another one of those ones that's TBD. So,
Do
unlike
they have a
Miranda,
token, by the way?
I'm not aware of a way to buy exposure to Ember Sword today.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, if
Got
there
it.
was, yeah, I'll try to mention the tokens that are available as we
Yeah,
go.
exactly. That's always a question on my mind if they have an associated token.
Yeah. So, you pulled up the charts for Illuvium, for example. So you can go buy some ILV on your favorite
Exactly.
centralized exchange today. There's a lot of liquidity there, a lot of hype. Um, Big time, Mirandus and Ember Sword are not things that you could probably access through your favorite centralized exchange today.
Got it. All right, moving on. Let's talk Star Atlas. This one is in Solana land, actually. It's a little bit different from the other ones.
Yeah, so in terms of the marketing budget and incredible AAA game quality, like they check all those boxes. I mean, when you go on the web app and you start playing around in the marketplace, the production, the quality looks fantastic. Now, it's the gameplay is pre-launch, but they're kind of taking this Gala Games approach in the sense that you can do a lot now in terms of you know buying NFTs, accumulating assets. So you can start kind of building your stake in their community today, but
Yeah.
the full game is far from done. So
Yeah.
this one, on the spectrum of things, this one still feels early, but I would argue that Star Atlas is the most reputable, most backed Solana-based game. So this one is built atop Solana. So that's a key difference, whereas other games that we've been discussing are choosing Ethereum. Um, and they brand themselves as a next-gen metaverse, which is an interesting. The way they're positioning this is a little bit different. A lot of these are marketed as games, but Star Atlas is marketed as like kind of the future of your virtual world as a metaverse.
Yeah, I
So
mean, just looking at their marketing material and their trailer, it definitely looks like the most amazing graphics and futuristic gameplay out of all the games I've seen personally. I haven't seen as many as you, but it definitely looks promising. But they're also have large, like fully diluted values, almost 2 billion here, and their token has been pretty much like a downtrend since after the initial pump.
Yeah, of the games that we've discussed, this is one of the ones that's the most liquid in terms of its tokens that are tradable. This is one that I don't have any exposure to. This is more of a wait and see for me. Yeah, I'd like to see what they ship as far as gameplay. With these games that are pre-launch, you have to factor in the overall crypto market, in my opinion. And so if we think that we're near the end of a lengthening cycle, that would affect all of these token prices, in my opinion. There are some folks that believe that in-game ecosystems will be able to flourish and continue to grow in terms of value, whether or not Bitcoin and Ethereum move up, which that's not something that I buy into, but that is a perspective to consider.
I think it makes sense as long as their tokens usage is not primarily speculation. Like if everyone is just buying it for speculation purposes, then it's going to ebb and flow with the markets. But if they're buying it because the game is legit fun and everyone wants to play it and get like an upper hand, then I don't think that necessarily has to be too tied with the rest of the markets.
Yeah. Another thing to consider here is some of the price action in these liquid games that are publicly traded liquid tokens. Some of this could be venture investment, locking in profit, exiting. Um, Venture capital is already here when it comes to these gaming tokens. That's a factor to consider when you look at who's backing it, who's bought in. If their vesting is unlocking and they're able to dump on retail, then
Right.
they might be they might be dumping on retail, right? That's another factor to consider.
For sure, for sure. And it probably was a good move you didn't buy into Atlas and Polis because they've been pretty much down the whole time. Okay, moving on. Blankos, Block Party. What can you tell us about that one?
That's one that we've played. It's an open world multiplayer game. It's a live game and it is free to play. So that is a cultural difference that I'd like to note to the audience is you can just jump in and try it out. Um, I think it start to finish was probably like 15 minutes from like web app to like playing around with it. Um, and they've got Mythical Games behind it, which is another gaming studio that we didn't talk about when we opened the live stream. But this one, because you're able to jump in and play, if I saw a means to have exposure to it, I'd be interested in allocating some capital here. I still have more to learn about its tokenomics and in-game economy before I make any investments. But my quick notes are, it looks fun. It was fun. We're interested in it. We're watching it, and we're evaluating ways to gain exposure to it.
Is it kind of like Fortnite in some ways?
Yeah, I would describe it as like a Fortnite style game. It's like probably the closest thing that I've seen to it.
I like the style though. It looks pretty cool. It does
Yeah,
look.
I would say it's primed for mass appeal, right? Like, it is fun. The design is fun. And it looks sticky. Um, some of these some of these games don't seem as primed for mass appeal. I think that Blankos could appeal to a lot of different types of gamers.
Got it. And is there no way? Oh, okay, okay. So you can buy the NFTs. I guess that's the way to enter.
Yeah, so I included this in more of the breadth section because I don't have as much in-depth firsthand experience with this one.
Okay.
Uh, but just from kind of playing around with it for an hour or so, I put it in that category of games that I'd like to follow closely, and I'd be open to having exposure to now.
Awesome. Um, and all right, let's do real quick. Gods Unchained, one of the older ones, one of the more OG ones. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I have a little bit of bias because I personally don't like card-based games that much.
Me neither. I'm
But
with you there.
the addressable market of things like Hearthstone, it's a Hearthstone style game. Like that's a massive TAM. That's a massive market. And so this game is live. Some of the like blockchain game veterans that have been following the space much longer than I have play this game all the time and love it. Um, it's led by Chris Clay, who's a former game director of Magic: The Gathering Arena, which is, I mean, a big name that I'm sure a lot of folks out there are familiar with. It is built atop Ethereum, and it has a token that's publicly traded that you can have access to if you'd like. That's the Gods token. The Gods
Yep.
token is a governance token, a staking token, and a utility token all in one. And probably something that put me over the edge in terms of having exposure here. I do have exposure to Gods. Is the fact that they've already thought about scalability and they're already using something that, in my opinion, is reputable, and that's Immutable X.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
so when you see these games, a lot of we call it a buzz saw that they're going to run into as you look at dozens of them is, do they have a path to scalability? And if they are able to garner network effects and demand, which is an if, what are they going to do about it? And so when you see a path to scalability um, already built in, that's very exciting. It's very interesting. That's what put me over the edge for Gods. Is it's got a massive TAM. So I did take a small percentage allocation, a small position in it, and I'd like to see where it goes.
I assume you also have a position in Immutable X2 then, because they're the underlayer for a lot of these games.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I've seen as a pattern is a lot of partnerships with Immutable X. So yes, I do have exposure to Immutable X as well. Um, I like it as a scaling solution, and I like the application specifically to gaming and NFTs.
I really wish Immutable X would have like hit the markets at a better valuation though. I saw it, I'm like, I feel the same way as you. I'm bullish on it, but I'm like, dang, 1 billion market cap and 10 billion fully diluted. Like, if it reaches the same amount as like Avalanche or whatnot, there's still like not that much room for growth as compared to some other projects and other niches. But it does seem the more like low risk, high chance of success project out there.
Yeah, yeah. I think of as one of the ways I thought about it was, you've got Illuvium building on it, you've got Gods Unchained building on it. There's more things that are going to follow. So I see a path to network effects, and I think a small position makes sense.
Awesome. Okay, so we have your three most knowledgeable projects left. I kind of want to just group them all together because we've talked about them a lot in previous streams, and they're also the most popular ones out there that I think our viewers probably have heard of before. But just give us your general thoughts about Axie, Sandbox, and Townstar.
Sure. Axie is a game that we've played in the past, but we do not currently play. Instead, we hold exposure to Axie in the form of AXS tokens. And one of the things that I think is really, really nice about Axie is they were really intentional about scalability way before a lot of people cared about blockchain games. So they've been building for years, and they built a dedicated bridge to Ethereum called the Ronin Bridge. They've also launched a DEX called Katana, and they've got staking live on their platform. You can stake AXS tokens for about 110% APY. Again, that's 110% APY. So you're talking about approximately 10% a month yield from holding the AXS tokens. I do think Axie has more room for growth. They've got a big roadmap. It's a Pokemon style game, but in the roadmap, they're planning to launch aspects similar to a metaverse, where it would feel more like an open world. Right now, it's more of a card based battling game that's similar to Pokemon, but
Right.
they've got a proven ability to execute. And so when I'm looking at exposure to GameFi games, I think of Axie as a blue chip. They've done what they said they were going to do. They've done it well. They're the most successful blockchain game in existence. Um, They've got impressive revenue. And so when I'm thinking about allocating, I'm looking at their ability to execute. Got confidence that they'll continue to do what they say they're going to do. So I like to have exposure here, and I like to earn yield on those underlying AXS tokens.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. To be honest, I would play Axie, but I don't want to buy the three Axie NFT characters needed to start. And I also don't want to go through the hassle of figuring out like scholarships and all that stuff. So I'm a potential player, but not because of their restrictions so far.
Yeah, like Axie yields itself to more of an esports model. Like it's very competitive. The ranking system, it has a built-in ranking system that ranks players automatically. And once you've jumped in and played a bit, without strong axes or without buying your way into kind of the upper tiers in terms of the quality of your Axie Infinity players, you can hit a ceiling. And so we hit that ceiling pretty quickly, and took our time and efforts elsewhere. But in terms of like paths to monetization, there's a lot of ways to go about this. You have this one option like of investing in the tokens themselves, right? So that'd be like buying the AXS and staking it. You've got the scholarship programs that you mentioned, where you could either lend your Axies or borrow someone else's Axies and then have a revenue share of the in-game yield. You could just buy and trade the Axies themselves in the open market, um, or you could actually buy the Axies and then play the games. So a lot of different paths to monetize things like Axie that are robust and have a whole ecosystem around it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So just to recap for the viewers, Spencer mentioned four ways to kind of make money in this whole GameFi space. One is buy their tokens if they have one. Two is to use some sort of scholarship program like Axie has. Three is to buy the NFT characters that we've seen a lot of these games. I think most of them actually have NFT characters that you can buy and play. And then option four is just to actually play the game itself to potentially earn like tokens as rewards.
Absolutely. And I think option four makes you better at all the other options because you've got that firsthand experience of seeing whether or not the game is sticky, and kind of getting in the trenches and seeing whether or not this really has legs to have network effects.
That makes the most sense. One question I have for you is, aside from all the like tokenomics and other stuff like that, just all of these games, if you strip them down to their core, which one would you say you think would be like the most playable and fun? Like you would play it for the most hours without any other reason to, other than pure enjoyment.
Yeah, I think the two that I would personally play the most would be the Sandbox and Townstar. Um, I have to fight myself to not play Townstar too much. I think it's super fun. I think it's super interesting, and I would like to spend more time playing it. It's one that clicks for me.
What is it again? You said
Townstar is it's one of the Gala Games blockchain games. So Gala Games, remember, is one of the leading blockchain game studios, and Townstar is a Farmville style game. And I would say that of all the things that I'm watching, I think that this would be the game that stands out as having the most ability for people to make money today, like playing it. Um, it's a live game.
is it a
Um,
mobile game? Oh, you can play on your phone too.
uh, it's led by Zynga Games co-founder Eric Schirmeyer. Zynga Games is responsible for building Farmville, which was a massive game, had a lot of users. Um, Gala Games boasts that it has 1.3 million active users. That's not all on Townstar. We have not seen that many people on their servers, so I'm not sure how they're calculating that number. But Townstar does have tens of thousands of users every single day. I'm not sure how they got to 1.3 million monthly active users though. Um, Kind of different than staking. Gala Games allows you to buy a founder's node, which have gotten very, very expensive. But instead of like staking your Axie tokens or staking your Sandbox tokens, with Gala today, you have an opportunity to run a node, which then, I mean, I think a lot of folks can see what's coming here. They have a network of 25,000 plus nodes, so they're migrating to a proof of stake system called Gala Chain, where they would then be operating their own blockchain instead of relying on Ethereum, which is what they do today.
Interesting.
Uh, there's also game specific nodes. So instead of like running a Gala Games node, which is prohibitively expensive today, we're talking about over $100,000. You could run a much more affordable, um, dedicated game node, like a Townstar node, for example. Those are also somewhat expensive, could be prohibitive to a lot of folks. But the kind of the easy way to gain exposure would be some of their NFTs are less than an ETH. They're less than one ETH. So you can buy Townstar NFTs and start earning yield on your NFT in the form of an in-game token called Townstar. So they have Town token, and you can earn Town as you play with your NFTs, and then cash that Town in on a DEX or for other NFTs in their marketplace in game.
Very interesting. I'm not sure if these stats are right for town, but yeah, this looks wrong. Like a 20 million market cap, but a 68 billion fully diluted. It it may not be fully accurate, but quite interesting that they have a town token and town NFTs as well. So they have both. Play to
Yeah, so
earn. Very
the path to
interesting.
monetization that makes a lot of sense in Townstar, in my opinion, is that you buy a reasonable NFT on OpenSea. You can buy more than one if you like, and then you use those NFTs in game to earn Town. Each NFT has different attributes. The more rare will generate more yield for you. And then you can use the Town that you earn in game to buy NFTs in the Townstar marketplace. And then you can use those NFTs to earn more Town, or you can exit by selling those NFTs on a secondary market on like OpenSea. And then you'd be you could list it in ETH, for example, and earn ETH that way. So this is the one of the most straightforward ways I see to realistically earning a valuable token like Town or ETH pretty quickly
They only
with this.
have a few items. Townstar.
No, Townstar is one of the most highly traded gaming collections.
Oh, why does
Yeah,
it say
so
425 items but 3,000 owners? 30,000 owners.
they may not have a lot of individual items, but there's a lot of volume and a lot of um, pieces of unique items. So like there may be like a one of 500 for any one of these, if that
Got
makes
it.
sense.
Got it. One of 500. Right,
Like
right, right.
with Axies, there's like so many different unique Axies, like so many different unique Pokemon. With Townstar, you've got like more liquidity around different in-game pieces because some of these pieces will be like one of 1,000, one of 5,000, and then you could use them on any of the towns in Townstar. Like you could buy a wheat stand, or you could buy a graveyard, or you could buy, these different NFTs that have utility in a town.
Got it. Awesome. Yeah, I think that's it. Any final thoughts? Thank you so much for all this great alpha in the GameFi space.
Yeah, some definitely some closing thoughts. If you look at OpenSea, Like you don't have to take my word for it. Like look at the data. Some of the most liquid, most traded, most volume in our entire industry is these blockchain games. It's insane. The Sandbox, Box Collectibles, Townstar, and Wizards and Dragons have traded um, more ETH than a lot of the NFT art collections. They've been top 20 in the past 30 days on OpenSea out of everything.
Dang, that's
Um,
impressive.
there's a lot of volume. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of activity. Something is happening here. I think of this. Web3 is getting a lot of the hype right now. I do think of this as tied to Web3 in the sense that like we never really own anything in Web2, and that also goes for your games. And so this is a movement. This is a revolution to own your own in-game assets. So if you're a gamer or an investor, there's something here for you. It's been very interesting personally, and at CryptoEQ and Coinsider, we've got big teams of people that are making this easier for you to learn about. So join our communities and tag in, and we'll help you along the way.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Spencer. Let's do this again in the future with some other topic. But this was great. Thank you for all the knowledge and experience about each of these games that people should check out.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Look forward to the
All
next
right.
one.